I just started.
Oh.
Hello, everyone. This is State of Exile, episode 32, with you, Project PT. What up, man?
Hello. Thanks for inviting me. How are you guys doing?
If you guys don't know, Project PT is fairly new to the streamer scene. He's been around for maybe 2 to 3 months and pretty damn close to a partnership. He's been playing a lot of beta, and we're glad to have you on board, man.
Appreciate it.
So, this episode, we're mainly going to be covering a whole lot of beta changes. Divination cards are going to be coming out soon. A bunch of new uniques. And some of the more favored skill gems and keystones have been changed in location or just completely reworked. We got Shock Nova changes, Arctic Armor changes, Punishment changes, bunch of really cool things or really not so cool things. We're going to talk about those during this episode. Also, I'd like to let chat know that at the end of the show, we'll be doing a Q&A. So at any point in time during the show, you can ask a question directed towards ZiggyD, and we'll all answer it. You can make it more specific and direct at each one of us individually, and it'll be copy and paste into our little Google Doc over here. So please ask questions throughout the whole show. Let's do this. So what's everyone been up to? You know, just a little brief overview. What have you been up to, Project PT, right now in the beta?
Currently in the beta, I've been actually looking at Fire Nova Mine. But recently I've done Shock Nova, Pillar Ice Crash, Sweep, Spectral Throw, Molten Strike, Cyclone, Poison Arrow, Ice Spear Totems, Flame Totem, Glacial Cascade, Firestone, all of that.
How about that brief overview?
That's about what I've been doing.
What's your of the ones you've played, which has been your favorite, or which do you see the most potential in?
I have no idea. They all do so much damage. I don't know if anyone else has been noticing that in the beta, but I've been pushing over 40k tooltip DPS with pretty much every skill. And I'm just like, okay, that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
None of the skills have been weak. And so it's very hard to assess and compare them. They can clear through the maps relatively well. I don't like the new Shock Nova.
Whoa. I think you're the
I'm
first
sorry.
person I've heard that. Interesting enough. Out of the skills you've played, which have you found to be the most powerful?
Ice Crash.
Ice Crash, even after the nerf?
I didn't even notice the nerf.
Wow.
Mobs died before in one hit. Mobs die after in one hit.
Well said.
I think my Pillar Ice Crash build, without having access to PoE trade, which everyone should know how much your gear upgrades with that, is after the nerf still like 89k tooltip. So hit a boss dies, end of story.
The crazy thing about Pillar 2 is now that everything's a multiplier and Ice Crash has such a big multiplier, getting all that extra increased damage from strength is actually much better now with all these multipliers than it was before. You can actually notice a difference.
And the Blood Rage changes. Getting the Frenzy, the Brawn Jewel, which if you're not familiar is it reduces your intellect by 10 to 15%, but it increases your strength and dexterity by 4 to 6, which is, for a pillar build, absolutely fantastic. I just have as many jewel slots as I can and throw bronze in them. It's
not limited
absurd.
as well. Mm.
Yeah, it's not limited to one. I assumed it was originally, and I was like, oh, it's not. Interesting. It should be.
Hint, GGG.
Yeah, maybe you might want to think that, especially seeing as I'm doing 87k tooltip without any strength rolls on my gear. Would be interesting when I can have an 80 strength chest, 80 strength boots.
I would imagine. Yeah, it's really difficult to try to get without the lack of with the lack of an economy, trying to get like strength with life with your resist plus movement speed or something is probably like it's near impossible. Unless you're going to craft it with those exalteds that you found, So
for all of you wondering what we're talking about this gem right here called Brawn. I just linked it in chat. It gives you a percentage strength multiplier, which is kind of insane for when you're playing a pillar build.
I don't think any other build is going to be using that than pillar.
Yep. That or maybe Iron Will, but still.
Iron Will probably wants the intelligence, though.
But anyways, yeah, the Pillar Ice Crash changes... Well, Ice Crash in general, even after the nerf, I've heard great things about it, and Pillar seems to be, like, really sought after now in the beta with it. It's always been one of those uniques where it kind of like falls off, but now it feels like it's completely viable in game. Usually, like when you get around to like level 85, level 80ish, you're like, man, I'm so tired of using this thing. I want to use something else. And plus, there's those new skill gems where you could convert or dex into strength as well. So, you know, if you're playing a Molten Striker going towards point blank, you can convert all that dex along the way right into strength, things like that.
So. Yeah, though the problem with that gem is Brawn is 6% increased strength, so whenever you're converting all the nodes, you have to compare that to the strength you would have gained on the Brawn conversion.
Very true.
And realistically, the radius of the node isn't large enough to justify it. And that being said, because the base AoE of Ice Crash, the application of Pillar of God's intelligence, which is just an added bonus, it's not a focus of Pillar of the Caged God, which is 1% increased area of effect for every 20 intelligence. When you have a base AoE the size of Ice Crash, it definitely helps the clear speed.
Yeah. I mean, you might get like 5 to 6% out of it, nothing crazy, but Ice Crash does have a very big base AoE, so yeah.
Yeah, and then that applies to the Herald of Ash procs that when you kill the mobs, which then extends your kind of overkill zone on a skill that's already hitting that hard. It just stacks very well. It's a very efficient stats. The strength is then giving you health. The new jewels, new tiers of mods mean able to roll more health, more strength. You know, once we have access to trade. And I didn't even have the Mantra of Flame, which is for every buff you have, you get like
Flat
3
fire.
to possibly 8 flat fizz, depending on the roll, which would push it to some pretty funny numbers.
So, with that being said, it seems that Ice Crash is still in a really good spot. You know, people were worried they were going to over-nerf it, and to be honest, beta has been a lot of, like, for the most part, the new things they've been adding has been really good, but the things they've been nerfing or trying to balance has just been pretty downright saddening. And it's good to see that Ice Crash actually is still pretty popular and playable. You know, to be fair, on release, it was absurd. You could do like a one-handed Resolute Technique sword build and do a ton of damage, and normally you can't do that kind of stuff.
Well, the issue that I have with Ice Crash right now, and I think it was actually kind of discussed on your previous podcast, I did a sweep build as well, and I leveled up a build specifically designed for sweep, testing the new blood magic, or at least the new efficient blood magic nodes, because they have the two 10% and Mortal Conviction has a 15% health. My sweep build at level 68 was doing 19k DPS. Then I just literally took out sweep gem, put in Ice Crash gem, and I did 30k.
Oh, and you didn't knock back anymore.
Yeah. And I did
knock
take
back
out
anymore?
weapon. I took off multi-strike and put weapon elemental, because obviously multi-strike.
Yeah.
That was so I did just that on a build that I designed for sweep entirely from the get-go, and it was 15% more damage. I'm just like,
Sounds almost like double the damage. God, you went from 18k to 30k. It's pretty damn close
well,
to double the
19k to like, I think it was like 19 to like 27.5. But yeah,
wow.
I was just like, you're
That's
kidding.
nuts.
Do keep in mind I had a 500 DPS sword, but it was RT, by the way. That's an RT build.
Yeah, Ice Crash with RT, you could get some really high numbers. Ziggy, what have you been up to right now in the beta?
I played an Ice Crash build too. That was just before the nerf, so I got, like, right when it was introduced, and because Lockstep was introduced at the same point, I was like, right, time to try Melee. I actually held off on trying Melee until Lockstep was implemented. Came right with Ice Crash. Oh my god, I had such a good time. Everyone in chat was, like, getting sick of me just saying, oh my god, this feels so good. Because, like, every couple of minutes, the words to that effect would come out of my mouth, just because that was such a fun, strong setup to play with the new Lockstep mode. It was a full-bodied experience.
Did you agree, Ziggy, that, like, the actual mechanics, regardless of the damage, the hit striking feels great? The sound, the animation,
yeah, for sure. I think it's a bit
good.
over the top. I think the skill's a bit over the top. once you start to scale that, like it's so big already, and like spikes are massive and cover everything. But once you get like just the Templar clusters, and then like your whatever 6 to 10% you can get when you use a mace or something, it's I think it's a bit too much in terms of the visuals, but it is a very freaking satisfying skill to use. Yeah, it's got that sweet feel to it, and because it's a non-targeted skill, it's my dream. I love it. Such a
honestly make the best skills.
Non-targeted. Yeah. That's I mean, I'm never going to go back now that we have so many good choices of non-targeted melee skills like Reeve and Ice Crash and Ground Slam as well. Static Strike I just can't do. I tried playing Static Strike. I just can't handle the feeling of it actually having target mobs.
It shocks.
Whoopty. Ice Crash kills it in one hit. Who needs
I'll
your
do
shock?
a Fist of Lightning Ground Slam before I do Static Strike. Thank you.
You're gonna go RT as well? RT with
yeah, with chance to shock from Templar area. That's 10%.
You gotta
I'll do that
get
before I
chance
do
to
it.
shock on your jewels too. Stack your chance to shock jewels. Your Fist of
You
Lightning
can.
gem.
Yeah, that's on rares and stuff, isn't it?
Yep.
We should do a challenge again with everyone plays Ground Slam, one goes Avatar of Fire, one goes Fist of Lightning.
Please.
Ground Slam challenge.
As long as everyone's using Veil of the Night, I'm in.
Oh man.
I loved because I used to I kind of liked Ground Slam, but I think that Ice Crash is a much better feeling skill even than that, because although Ground Slam you can get more range on it, can be a bit safer in that regard. It's a cone, so mobs that are just off to the sides of that, especially closer to you, that are actually in melee range, Ground Slam is less of a melee skill than Ice Crash is, since you can actually kind of be surrounded by Ice Crash and still be attacking things, whereas Ground Slam is a bit more like EK, really, the way you have to position mobs. But yeah, I played it before nerf, and then I jumped on that same character and tested. No changes after nerf, and still felt really good. Barely noticed the difference in regular content, so maybe in like the higher tiers of content you might have noticed a bit of a drop in clear speed, but still felt really, really solid. So after that I made an EK build, and I was planning on testing the new placement of Mind Over Matter Keystone and just seeing how that feels to build on mana. Basically at the same time as I was doing that, Hedgie also built one that was a Mind Over Matter Eldritch Battery character. I really like what he did with his character as well. I think that potentially is going to be like almost as common as EB Mind Over Matter was in the past. I think EB Mind Over Matter in the current game will also, if nothing else changes, which I think things will change, but if nothing else changes, will be very, very popular. But EK feels good. I feel like EK feels pretty good too. We'll probably talk a bit more about that. Do have any of you guys played around with it at all since any of the changes in the beta?
No, I understand it went from originally it was a 1.0 cast speed, then knocked it down to 0.8, and then they like knocked down its physical damage 25%. But then they made its casting now 0.6, which is I think the same as freezing pulse. So it's like a machine gun without
fast,
and it doesn't have any damage effectiveness. I mean, it's just solid now. It's one of the
before I had any cast speed nodes, I was rocking around at level 30 with just like cast speed like 3 times faster than what I used to have at like endgame. Just it was insane.
Instead of throwing,
it kind of looks like my character's shooting watermelon seeds and everything out of its mouth.
Instead of throwing toothpicks really slowly, now you're throwing toothpicks really fast. Yeah.
Basically, yeah. It still doesn't feel like a top tier skill to me or anything like that, even after all the buffs. But it is quite passable now. It's quite I would say a decent skill, but not a great skill. But with the crit chances,
the
I think it's the biggest
Shuriken
thing.
MTX though, and that attack speed.
I didn't get to test that.
That's got to be. I know that's got to be live because MTXs. But that's what I want to see. That's what really it's missing right now.
That's probably the one thing that it's missing. I would say is the Shurikens.
Yeah. There's no MTX, man.
So what you're trying to tell me is for skills in order to become top tier like Ice Crash, it has to cover your whole screen so you can't see anything?
Basically, yes. Because then you don't need to be worried about dying. You don't see any skills that would kill you. So you just have operate on faith.
It's pretty hard to compete in clear speed when you're using an Ice Crash that hits the left side of your screen, the right side of the screen, the top and the bottom, and you're like, oh, I have the range of a freeze pulse build. What?
Yeah. And it's not one directional, exactly. Yeah, totally.
So,
and then I played a bit of Cutthroat as well, was the final thing there. I played like the start of Cutthroat League. I didn't sleep the night prior, and I didn't sleep last night either, so my sleep patterns have been kind of screwed. I'm doing a bit better today than I was at the start of the the Cutthroat. But I'm curious, did you guys play Cutthroat, and what did you think of it?
I was planning on doing a 24-hour stream of the Cutthroat because I'm a PvP advocate. I know people here aren't necessarily. However, I leveled really slowly, and I was in the top 20 for a moment. Like there's some problems at the higher levels, so it just kind of fell off.
It feels more of like a fun thing, and I just don't really care about PvP and PoE. I mean, it's a cool thing, it's fun. That's what it's supposed to be. It's not a race. There's no maps. It seemed cool, but it's just not for me, so I didn't do it.
The thing was, I don't know. I think kind of what happened to me was because I was on the Australian servers, I was only seeing instances from the Australian servers, which meant that if I had to, so there was I ran into like 3 people. I killed one person and got killed by one other person. There was a couple other people I ran into. We kind of couldn't kill each other, so we had no choice but to just leave each other. And that's like all I saw. I saw like 5 people. A couple of people watching me, people watching me on stream, and so there was not much going on. So for me to actually, I think, get more people, and I don't know, apparently it was pretty dead on other servers too. But for me to run into other people, I actually had to commit to being on US latency, low latency.
That's why I stopped.
Yeah.
At the EU, there was trying to find people, one person I could invade, but alternately there was also one person that was camping myself, and he had better gear, and there was nothing I could do because he could kill me that I had worse gear. And they said they had a level discrepancy, but he was 12 levels higher than me. How am I supposed to kill someone with a 3+3 skill level gems, the health passes, and I'm just like, and losing my gear every time. So it was like, all right, I just wish they would have restricted it to standard, or normal, remove cruel entirely, so that there's no progression past there. Then losing your gear doesn't screw up your resist for the higher levels, and then it would have stayed really dense PvP that you could have always restarted. And like PvP needs player density. If you lack player density and you have scarcity, you have the PvP that exists in Path of Exile. So they really needed to tighten things up, knowing that there wasn't going to be enough people to support the end game.
Honestly, I think it was just one of those things where the community asked for it a bunch, and then it finally happened, and people got their achievements out of the way. It was just silly for 1 week, and it's still going on, right?
That's how successful it was that none of us know the answer.
Yeah, exactly. I
think
I
it's
said that from the beginning. Those people asking for a 1 month Cutthroat, I'm like, you'll get bored after the second day. Like,
well, to be fair, they gave a very, very rare and possibly fun event to people at a time where people are focusing on the beta or taking a break for live to come out. So it was also it was doomed to start. And I feel that basically made people sour to the idea who might not have been if it was done at a good time, like midway through. Instead, they were like, oh, everyone's kind of mad that they don't have beta access, or everyone's taking a break. Have this. Okay.
Yeah, it was meant to be fun, casual. I mean, this is probably the perfect time to do it, honestly, because if they did it during live, I still think people would play the live leagues over Cutthroat. It's just after the PvP is something that's very specific in this game, and people either love it or hate it. And I think there's more people that hate it than love it in Path of Exile. So it's like when Cutthroat came out, we were already like, whatever.
My only experience with Cutthroat is I went to Merville, and right before I got to Merville, what's how Merville is tied to the room behind her?
Yeah,
the area you have to go through.
Well,
there was 5 people chasing me, so that was 6 people. So when Merville was tagged, I had to solo her from a 6-player HP, and doing a 6-player HP Merville takes a really, really long time when you only have Fire Trap. So that was like Merville.
The mob scaling when there's multiple players in the same instance is pretty screwy.
Yes.
I mean, I guess it would make sense if you were teaming up with other people, even though it's a non-party league. But but most of the time it was just screwing you. Constantly being on 3-4 player health mobs.
There was a difficulty with my streaming the content because when I would do a boss, seeing as I'm streaming it, there was a couple of people every time I fought a boss waiting outside, giving the player HP to the boss, and then when I killed the boss, they walked in and killed me. Every boss.
Yeah.
There's nothing I could do about it.
The one time I played Cutthroat, Hellman did that to me after I killed Murphy. I was like, really? Cool Hellman. His Bear Trap and Cold Snap can't do anything. Have fun.
Frozen and pinned. Yeah, I don't know, I had a few fun moments in it, and I like thinking about the potential that there's maybe a couple people playing at like higher levels now, getting a really rare experience that doesn't ever happen otherwise, where they get to PvP in a PvE environment, which doesn't happen normally. So maybe there's some cool stuff happening there. But I like your idea, Project PT, of limiting it somewhere, cutting it off. I also like the idea in general of creating arbitrary endpoints in Path of Exile, because I think it creates a meta around this arbitrary endpoint that you create. Like, what's the best gear you can get at this level? Kind of like what low-level dueling does. So
then you have the low-level dueling meta kind of thing going.
And that's fine. That was their most success with PvP.
The other problem you have is, like, there's a PvP skill set, but look at Nugi. He was the highest level by far, but he was like 10 to 20 levels to the closest person to him. Who's he supposed to PvP, and who's supposed to be able to get gear to PvP him? There was too much of an advantage to racing above everyone, thus you couldn't be griefed, and then once you're 10 levels above, you have better resist gear, better items, and now nobody can fight you. And because you can find players through /ladder/who, you get their location instantly, you can literally make it impossible for someone to compete. Like, it is not there is no way for that person to actually compete at all. And that's why the top tier just completely falls over.
I don't know. I'm just not a fan of Cutthroat. What I've been up to in the beta currently is I wanted to do a cool point blank barrage type build, but then it turned into Split Arrow is leaps and bounds better than it. And someone was like,
Barrage.
"Oh, you've already played Split." You know, I was like, "Yeah, it's really, really good." I'm still using Barrage as single target, so they're like, "Why don't you mess around with Lightning Arrow?" Lightning Arrow is pretty good, so I threw in GMP because GMP is awesome with attacks now with the change, and Lightning Arrow it got a higher damage effectiveness. And it's trucking, but the mana cost is still way too much. And with the damage conversions being half lightning, you deal mostly elemental damage. It's still a pain in the ass to sustain on mana leech with GMP and whatnot. So I was like, I'm just going back to Split Arrow. It does tons of damage. Split Arrow, I really feel like, is a higher clear than Tornado Shot, with the exception of single target.
Yeah,
like it's so freaking.
I feel like
strong.
that's a good spot for it, though. I like that Split Arrow is a better AoE clear, but Tornado Shot has the versatility of being a good single target, especially because at the moment bows builds in general now kind of lacking single target. Like, they struggle a little bit on single target.
With the Punky change.
I kind of like that.
Frenzy being too much mana. I guess Burning Arrow is okay. I mean, it's really awkward, the single target for bows.
Just all single targets on bows just feel super lackluster.
Yeah. I'm using Barrage, and it's pretty good.
Well, you still have your point blank puncture trap insta-gib stuff, don't you?
Yeah, I guess. I hate using that.
That is if they hit the trap, and what exile are you fighting? And
it's so painful.
Yeah. It's okay. I mean, it has its situations where it does a lot of damage, but for the most part, it's kind of like when you're multi-strike single targeting and you end up swinging around at everything around the target rather than the target you're trying to hit. But all in all, I think bows right now are in one of the best spots. Melee and bows, I feel really, really good, and Split Arrow is absurdly strong. I'm surprised it got as big of a buff it did. If you haven't played beta at all, it has the same damage effectiveness as Tornado Shot, literally 1-to-1. Except you don't have to use GMP. However, Tornado Shot still has the shotgun type effect where it could do potentially more damage to one target at any given time than Split Arrow can. And also, Split Arrow at level 1 now has 5 arrows. That's what like level 11 or 12 used to give on live. So
what are you doing for defenses on the Split Arrow character, though?
I threw on Dark Ray Vectors. I have 9 Frenzy charges, I have 1,000,000 dodge, and I'm running Blood Rage with a little bit of Duelist regeneration in Heart of Oak, so I can sustain Blood Rage like a joke. I have 1,000,000 Frenzy charges for bonus damage from Blood Rage, and I have all this extra dodge. I honestly feel like Dark Ray Vectors and Blood Dance are going to be like staple boots for any attack build. Or even some caster builds are going to use Dark Rays.
Really, why Blood Dance? Blood Dance made sense to me until Blood Rage became so easy to sustain, it wasn't even funny.
For casters. Casters don't...
casters.
For your Mind Over Matter and...
I think they're only really there if you can't get enough regen to really make it work otherwise.
Yep. Instead of running Enduring
Dark Rays
Cry...
are insane, though.
Here's a segue for you, Pox. Why are Blood Dance so good?
So guys, here's what I've been doing in the beta. I'm playing, as you guys know, I'm not a big fan of linking things. I don't have the best luck when it comes to that. So I'm like 250 fusings into my carcass. It doesn't want a 5-link. It's great at no linking. I get that. I got 3 no links in a row. Well, not in a row, but it was like no link, link, no link, link. Anyway, so I'm up to, for all the tooltip warriors out here, it's like 25.8k DPS with a 4-link level 18 Shock Nova. So I've been playing with Shock Nova, and of course, I'm using Voidbringers because I found like a really cool synergy with Voidbringers, Blood Dance, and then going Mind Over Matter, EB, Zealot's Oath, which is all relatively close in my build, so I'm not spending 30 points to go travel to it. I need to make
Pox,
sure
you invested way too much for that.
I spent seven points total to get those.
Too many
That's always the
keystones,
answer.
bad build.
All right, so
Yeah.
okay, so I've
Every
got
time.
about 6k effective life right now, and with the 6k effective life, the way it works is I've got like a little bit over 4,000 effective life, and then I've got an ES shield, like an ES pool of like near 2,500 now. It could be like 3k with proper gear. So I use my ES, of course, to cast. My Shock Nova costs like 106 mana because of Voidbringers. But every time I kill a target because of Voidbringers, I get Energy Shield, which is really cool in like big packs. It just helps sustain it. And then I run 4 Frenzy Charges with Blood Dance, which gives my ES regen, that's 2,500 ES, a 4% base ES regen per second. And then you go to Templar, and then you get 1%, so it's 5% ES per second. And then if you wanted to like min-max your gear, you could like Vol Orb your Blood Dance, get another Frenzy Charge. You could Vol Orb a Necklace, I think you can get or Amulet, you can get a Frenzy Charge there. And it's really good. It's doing pretty good. I like it. I found some really cool stuff. And the only time I ever go is like insane burst damage. Like I'll go do Weaver in Jungle Valley, and I'll walk and you just get spam Flicker Strike, then your health will go down. You'll HP pop to get back up, but your ES won't go back up. But all you have to do to fix that is use Fall Discipline.
Okay, macro.
Well, I mean, there's that too, but
If you go out of mana with a like 2k ES Mind Over Matter build, then I think I would say that's probably when you're using your logout macro.
I just
if you're
Fall
hardcore.
Discipline. Fall Discipline's fine. A lot
It
of
works,
people
I
said,
suppose.
yeah, a lot of people
What about
like,
when you
use
run out
bullshit.
of your Vault Discipline, huh? Think
It
about
should be
that.
dead. It should be
Please.
dead. Yeah. I mean, in my builds, I can run 2 level. When I get a 5-link, I'm gonna run 2 level 21 Vol Storm Calls. So that I'm a crit build. So I really shouldn't have any trouble with single target on anything, because
No.
in a 5-link Shock Nova will be at least 30k DPS, plus, again, 2 level 21 Vol Storm Calls in the Voidbringers will be pretty nuts.
Well, the one thing about Shock Nova that I couldn't figure out is, and I should just do the testing to figure out, was the tooltip DPS related to the second ring in which you're at the 150% damage effectiveness, or is it just the general flat zone of 100%? And I don't know. The tooltip looks like it's the 150% ring, just because of how high it gets.
Yeah, I don't do math, so I don't know.
It's an extra modifier. Ice Crash. I asked the devs about Ice Crash, and it's before the modifiers happen that are listed in the bottom part of the skill. So it's based on. So it
it's
would
gonna
be
the
without the added. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So
That
it'd be
does a
larger
lot.
anyway.
I love how Pox, like, when he races, he goes hard. And it's like, yo, what's your math behind your build? It does stuff. It's a lot of stuff. I don't know percents.
That thing died. I'm winning. Good enough.
I don't do math.
Well, related to that, because you've been having fun with your lightning trappers, since you have 150% effectiveness, because the second ring on
Right.
Shock Nova has the 50% increased damage. If you have multi-trap and you can land the Shock Nova and overlay the rings, it's a 300% damage effectiveness with added lightning, added chaos. You should pretty much one-shot most
Yep.
map bosses.
And I use Bear Trap, which also is a 150 effectiveness, and it Fizz the Lightning. That's
Yeah,
insane.
just-
I mean, there's just so many. Shock Nova is in, I think, a really, really good spot right now. Heck, let's just.
I want to hear
let's
from Project PT though, because he's the only guy I've heard that didn't really like Shock Nova much. What's the lowdown there?
I have, in the Bloodlines Torment 1 month, played a Shock Nova build to 78 maps. I have a live Shock Nova build. It clears 78 maps very, very fast. It clears in a 4-link faster than with a Divinaris and a 4-link. On a Tabula, it clears faster and more defensively than the beta version. With in beta, I have a 6-link tabula with it all used, and I use double Doriana's catalysts. And it's slower.
What?
Well, the thing, they changed the top end of Shock Nova. It's significantly lower. If you look at the actual base damage that Shock Nova has, it's very low in beta. However, on live, it's actually one of the highest tooltip DPS in the entire game. Once you have faster casting, you have to remember that when you have a variation, if you were to, sure, your average damage might be the same, but if you score the high variance attack first, the pack instantly dies. Because on live, its top end at level 20 is 749, somewhere around there.
Yeah, to interrupt you, can I just really fast, just to clarify something? They completely actually changed the damage ratios in this saying. In live, Shock Nova works just like a normal lightning skill would. In beta, Shock Nova actually, like its starting damage, it's not a lightning skill anymore. It's like a fire skill. Like Shock Nova will deal like 400 to like 900 instead of like 11 to 1,600.
They made the low range much higher. They made the high range much lower. So it's more consistent damage is what Pox is trying to say. Project PT saying on live right now he has higher cleared because his high end is much higher. And if he rolls, it sounds like if you have good RNG, you're going to freaking one-shot the pack much easier.
What's not good in RNG is if you have a faster cast speed, a high hit then doesn't allow you to need the low hit, and you actually save an attack every time.
The only difference I'm noticing is
zone.
Shock Nova is a 6% crit, though, on beta. And I'm one of those people, I prefer consistent damage over bursty damage. Like, I like cold spells for that reason. High crit chance, consistent damage. So if I go crit, I'm going to consistently get good damage, you know? Whereas lightning, you're really rolling the dice every time.
Oddly enough, my Shock Nova build is crit. I shit you not.
Is it a 4% base, too?
Yep, on a 4% base. It is dirty. It is very dirty. And if they just gave me the 6% base crit and put that on my live build, I'd be happy. The thing is, Herald of Ice offers such an obscene amount of damage that scales with AoE, and it actually fills in the dead zone of live Shock Nova. So I used 3 dragons because it's the highest top end lightning, converting it to cold. That freezes the mobs, and then they will have a 100% chance to shatter. The shatter rings fill in the dead zone and increase the area of effect of the current live Shock Nova. This allowed me to safely clear the highest maps and just insta-get everything. Walk through, kill everything. It is a 3 dragons. It is a 3 dragons, Zeno.
Hate that.
I can't do that anymore because I needed the dead zone. Like, the dead zone was the functionality of my build.
I don't know.
That's what GG was talking about when they were saying there's a couple of people out there using it who like the way it is now.
I'm like,
so I was kind of surprised when they ended up changing it, honestly.
I was super happy when they changed it. It's like, some people are saying it feels like Ice Nova, but I still think it has its own little twist to it where it's like it's got shock chance, it's got a secondary damage component that Ice Nova doesn't have. I don't know, the AoE is a lot bigger than it displays right now in beta, like a lot bigger. Like those little tiny little lightning things that come out, you're like, oh, okay, apparently that's my range.
It's past that, It's a little bit past that.
I've noticed that with a lot of skills. There's a little bit more area than visually with most skills I use.
Yep. All in all, I know there's people like you, Project, who found a way to make it work, but finding a way to make it work versus the entire community being A-okay with it and having fun with it, I'd rather that be the case.
You know what? As much as I like my build, I will agree with that. It is more accessible to most people. The one I had, it only works in a specific case set up one way. And
That's not fun.
It shouldn't be that way. Mm-hmm. However, I do think it's too close to Ice Nova that it just feels that I'm clearing a map with a different color. That's my problem with the current iteration.
Not even that different, they're both blue.
I like it, though.
Colorblind. Don't yell at me.
Yeah, I like it because you have to, if you really want to min-max your Shock Nova, like the way I do it is I've just gotten it just down because you've got the outer, the inner, and then the ring. And the ring actually hits a decent amount. But if you want to make sure you're one-shotting everything, because I usually do one-shot everything, well, I guess 2-shot, because I have a curse on hit Shock Nova and then regular Shock Nova because I dual curse. So I just curse on hit Shock Nova to see exactly where the radius is, and then just pop Shock Nova and everything dies. And then just go through curse on hit Shock Nova, which is actually also really cool because, as we all know, there's this thing called Dan's game Thornflesh, which basically insta-gives most people. But it's okay because I curse on hit, and I'm like, oh, that's reflects. That's okay. And then I just kill it with my curse on hit. But I like it. I like it because its positioning actually matters. It gets a significant increase in damage. And it's also unique because even though it doesn't have a dead zone, it's one of those few skills you don't want to just get as much AoE as possible. Because if you have too much AoE, when haste mobs just like run into your face, you can't get your proper modifier of damage.
Oh, snakes on any of the Shock Nova builds, live or beta, they're annoying.
Well,
Discharges.
Discharges, yeah.
So now that you guys heard a little bit about Shock Nova, we're going to go into the heart of this episode where we're going to be talking about the big skill tree changes, some keystone changes, caster defenses. It's a big problem. Let's go right into it. The biggest change right now in terms of caster defenses, people are trying to make work. I'm personally against, but we have the Mind Over Matter movement change. It is now located in between Witch and Templar, right by the quick recovery node, and it still does what it does in live, where when you're hit, 30% of your damage is taken from mana before life. If you have the new Eldritch Battery, it will take from your energy shield before mana before life, and that's how it's currently working. It's a really good change to where it's located, but I feel that without the trifecta, in my opinion, a forced trifecta of Mind Over Matter, Eldritch Battery, and Zealot's Oath, it just feels a little bit forced. Some people are making it work, but making it work for me isn't like I could pick up this keystone and it functions by itself perfectly. What are your thoughts on this right now, Project PT? Caster defenses.
I'm in a different boat with caster defenses because I have been basically strictly playing low life without shavs or the chest piece, or like the budget shavs, just any chest piece low life, using chaos resist to mitigate. Now, the Mind Over Matter change in terms of low life non-shavs splits the chaos damage that you would take and then puts it into your mana. That is obscene. Like, this is essentially about 18% max chaos resist. This is, you have no idea how great this is mathematically to low life. But more related to what you're discussing, the placement is efficient, right? You're in kind of the Zealot's Oath region. If you want to use that, you're by cast speed nodes. It's in a better place. I don't think there's much argument there, except for some of the builds that we're planning on abuse it in the old location. How effective it is, using it with EB, as ZiggyD was, and I think ZiggyD was also trying to, it's effective. It's probably more effective than it was. And the reason for that is when you had it based on mana, you would reserve a % of the mana, and you would never be able to give up auras, which means you were rarely getting the full effectiveness of a true 100% Mind Over Matter. The new EB doesn't have a % reservation when you have auras. This means you actually have a reasonable energy shield pool, probably 2 to 3k, in which your Mind Over Matter will always get full effectiveness every single time. So as long as you have a way to regenerate it, it is better than it is live numerically. As long as you have a method of generating energy shield. That is the requirement. If you don't, then it's not reliable enough because you're going to get hit in between the 3-second window and it won't recharge. So that is something you have to build around.
Now, what are your instances? You've been playing with the 3 keystones all in one defense. How do you feel about it?
No, I actually wanted to test Mind Over Matter specifically without Eldritch Battery, because I knew the Eldritch Battery combo would be strong, and I first saw ZiggyD do it and later saw Pox doing it, and it seems like that's the case. It seems very, very strong. It's more niche, as Project PT says. You need to have that way of regenerating, so it does force you into something like Zealot's Oath or one of the other couple of little options. But I was trying to build it on just mana to replicate like old Mind Over Matter and see if it was worth it, because it's much more accessible now. The new location's excellent. Wanted to see whether building it on mana is something that really has potential, and I think on a kind of like a regular budget build, building Mind Over Matter on mana at the moment, I really think is worth it. Getting like all of the mana available on the tree and getting some mana on gear just really doesn't give you enough. And
using Pledge?
The reduced mana changes as well. Not using Pledge. Well, with
Pledge, it would be even better.
yeah, to make it work now like it did, to be comparable how it was with Eldritch Battery on live, so in terms of on a mana-based Mind Over Matter, not an energy shield one, you'd need a pretty big gear investment. And before you were kind of just getting mana regeneration, not usually getting too much actual mana on gear. Now I think you need to actually get mana on gear, because before you were getting that ES for that instead. So it is... to get it to be comparable to live, you'd need very high gear investment, which I guess is not too bad a thing. My theory and my thinking that's come out of this is that GGG kind of wants it to be something, Mind Over Matter to be something where, on a budget, it's a solid extra layer of defense, but it's the sort of thing where if you take a bunch of spike damage, you need to back off for a bit. And this kind of, I guess, is sort of in line with what Carl was saying about how they want some things to be more situational, like how they said they initially wanted Arctic Armor to be more situational. I think maybe they want Mind Over Matter to be more situational. That's why we feel a bit restricted in terms of mana. But yeah, it seems like ES is the way to go, though, even looking at all that. I don't really like the feel of it based on mana at the moment.
So, Pox, I want to have a little bit of tiff with you here. This is going to be a good debate. You love the trifecta. That was your build was all about. And by the trifecta, I'm referring to Eldritch Battery, Mind Over Matter, and Zealot's Oath. If you want to describe why you like that, and I'm gonna
counter it?
Completely counter it.
Okay. All right. So before I go into it, then let's have this debate. I want to state that I understand exactly to an extent of what you're saying, where you want to pick up the keystone and it works automatically like it used to, and it doesn't. But I'm just going to throw at the chat some ways of running this. You can use Enduring Cry to sustain it. You can use Blood Dance with Zealot's Oath to sustain it. You can use the unique chess piece that came out that works so when you have Enduring Cry up, then you get extra life regen per Enduring Cry, which will directly affect it, and you can rely on Vault Discipline.
He's referring to Restless Ward, which I just showed.
There you go. Okay, so the reason why I'm doing what I'm doing now is I get to pretty much reserve all my mana and run the auras I want. So I'm running Arctic Armor, which is a defensive boost. The reason why I like Arctic Armor now is the only time I will ever die, really, aside from spells, is getting stunned. When you're stunned, you're not moving. When you're not moving, Arctic Armor is helping you because you're not moving. So getting stun locked is usually what will cause players to die. And as Arctic Armor works now when you're not moving, I mean, that's a perfect example. And then I'm running Wrath and Herald of Thunder. So the way my setup works is I have no life regen because I'm running Zealot's Oath to support my energy shield, which is about 2,400, 2,500. I use Blood Dance with Frenzy Charges, with Zealot's Oath again, to sustain my mana. Furthermore, the way I can survive on life is because I have 1% life leech on a weapon. You can craft it with Katarina, it's not expensive at all. And 1% leech on a caster, as you guys know, is more than enough. You're fine. Like you can sustain your whole way through. I never really have issues with it. The only time you have issues is if it's like Burning Ground or you're getting hit by a degen from like desync, which doesn't really happen anymore. So you're usually fine in that case. The only issue I would ever have with my character is, say I'm doing a boss like Merveil or Dominus, something that's kind of tanky that won't insta-die. If you Lightning Warp, your regeneration will stop because you're casting a spell, so your ES will not regen. If you get hit, it cancels it. So when you're running away, you need to run away with a Quicksilver. You can't Lightning Warp. But other than that, if I were to ever take an insane amount of burst damage, you go into a fight knowing something's going to happen, you hit your Vol Discipline, you essentially take 30% less damage because there's no way your Vol Discipline is going to go out unless you get one shot. That's not going to happen. And then I have, my life pots for my life. And even though the way Mind Over Matter works is it's a 30% conversion, to me, it's actually more than 30% because I run with instant flasks. I run with 3 life flasks with literally every build I do, even if it's CI. Don't ask why. So basically, you get hit, you heal. You get hit, you heal. You get hit, you heal. And your ES is still there. So even though it's taking 30%, your life is healing, your ES won't regen in combat unless you have something to regen it like that. So I really like it for that reason. And last thing, I don't have to look for mana regen on my accessories, on my weapon, on my shield, on my amulet. I can just easily weed out mana regen and get simple gear, which I'm all about simple things, budget builds, etc. So there you go.
All right, here's how I feel about the new thing. First off, it forces you to go to the Templar tree. You must pick up Mind Over Matter in Zealot's Oath, Templar tree. So if your build is like, it's for instance going to be going Val Pact, forget it, it's out. You can't use Zealot's Oath and Val Pact together. Build's already dead.
Okay.
So
I
in
would
term-
counter this point by just saying that you're not going to consider a form of defense that has you go over to the Templar tree unless your build intends to be in Templar tree anyway. You're playing an AoE elemental skill.
And then I also feel that acrobatics will give you more bang for the amount of skill points spent. I do agree that mana regen is in a pretty crappy spot right now. Mana regen is borderline useless, with the exception of maybe using Pledge of Hands. With the change to Arctic Armor, mana regen is completely pointless. I do feel that going acrobatics, phase acro, or a little bit of spell block in the Witch Tree would be fine. I also feel like hybrid would be a better form of defenses because I feel like you're investing. It's not that you're investing a lot of skill points to make it better. It's just you're sacrificing a lot of your defenses to make this trifecta work, and you're forcing your character to only go to the Templar tree. Now, like Ziggy said, if your character plans on going there, sure you can do it. But maybe endgame in really, really good endgame gear. These 3 keystones could take the cake over just a standard leveling spec. But I honestly feel like you're stretching hard to make it work. I feel like it's almost like it's forced. Anytime
I feel like in the builds that already go to those areas though, which is quite a lot of builds, like basically go the Witch, Shadow, Templar areas, which is tons of Spellcaster builds. It's really very little extra investment to get these things. Your argument is kind of akin to saying that Iron Reflexes is bad because my Arc character has to go all the way across the tree to get it.
No, I got this.
My point is that in order to make a keystone good, you need another keystone. In order to make both those keystones good, you need a third keystone.
Okay.
And why the hell do you want 3 keystones
I would
to
make the
something
argument
work?
that phase acro is part of the reasons why you go acro, which is a second keystone.
Well,
okay. All right, I got this.
They might be.
That's-
I might be
Come
cutting
on,
semantics
Project,
here.
really?
Okay,
Really?
ready? All right.
And Anders Guile in live.
I would actually
another
have to-
keystone that you have to travel 3 points down.
Okay, really anyway. So just really fast to just show you.
No one gets on does now.
No, just to show you that you were being silly in a way, Zeno. The points it takes for me to get EB and Zealot's Oath is the same points it takes to get acro and phase acro.
Yeah, isn't it just 5 points?
It's 5.
Yeah, but now you have to use Blood Dance or that new unique chest or something else to make that then their work.
Actually,
you see where I'm
probably
going?
just
If I get phase acro,
Okay, all right.
I don't need all this other gimmicky
Next,
crap.
next. If you're gonna go hybrid, are you gonna run Blood Rage off your ES?
No, I probably won't.
So what are you gonna run? Blood Dance? Or do you not want to use Frenzy Charges? It's my choice to use. I'm using it because Frenzy Charges give damage.
The point you're making right there is that they freaking nerfed Blood Rage way too hard for ES builds.
No.
That
I'm not
has
saying
nothing to
anything.
do with the build itself. They just destroyed Blood Rage.
You said that you could go hybrid or you could go phase acro, and I'm going to tell you why. I'm not doing those.
You don't. Just because you go hybrid doesn't mean you need Frenzy Charges. They just nerfed Blood Rage.
I
too hard
want
for ES
Frenzy Charge 12% more. That's 16. It's so much damage. Why would you not get it? Because this is what I would do. If I was playing hybrid, you need a way to sustain your ES. So even if I was playing hybrid, I would go Zealot's Oath, and I would either go Zealot's Oath or go Ghost Reaver. So I'd either leech to my life and ES regen, or ES regen, or vice versa. I'd either go one or the other. So I'm going to get Zealot's Oath regardless.
I'm not ruling it out. I'm just saying it seems like it's a forced thing now. It
Okay.
seems like a forced thing.
There were a lot of
Next.
prerequisites now.
Yes,
for
next up.
this to work.
All right. If you were to go phase acro, that is totally dependent on your build.
Correct.
Because
it's the same thing with going to the Templar tree.
That's
though.
I'm not disagreeing. Hold on, let me go.
Templar starts
All
at the
right.
Templar tree.
I originally had a character that was phase acro. The only
Don't go
problem with
Templar.
it, the only problem with doing a phase acro build is are you going to use an ES chess piece? Because where are you going to roll your blues? You're going to use a 6-link staff or like a staff, for example, and sacrifice your chess piece to get an evasion chess piece. Because then you're being forced to go
I'm
staff.
going to use Lightning Coil because Lightning Coil is goddamn
How are you
OP.
going to roll blues on a lightning coil?
Staff done.
Let's make an interjection. When we're talking about defense, one of the critical things that we need to consider, let alone the build, is the content that this defense is supposed to be mitigating. Now, acrobatics is very strong in live. However, when you talk about high-end maps, when you look at your 78s, your 79s, a tornado shot is going to wreck your world so hard it is even funny. People are getting one shot at 5k health because the physical damage is that insane. That's pushing people away from acrobatics, where mind over matter gives you the higher effective health pool. But there's also a very good argument of why go mind over matter if you could just go hybrid, because you're using mind over matter to make your energy shield into hybrid. And if you had a way to generate energy shield, you could have just been hybrid. Like, if you are generating with Zealot's Oath energy shield, why even pick up the Mind over Matter keystone? Because you would have had 100% of damage going into the energy shield with it constantly regenerating.
Amen, brother. Preach it. Preach it.
However, that only
There's
works.
always that's how it is.
When you combine the fact that a build could potentially leech life using Life Leech and use Zealot's Oath to regen a secondary health pool, you can double dip at your maximum regen per second when you're talking about consistent damage.
Yep.
So it is very important to, because we're discussing defenses. Defenses is only to stop damage. What damage are we talking about exactly? Are we talking about, Merveil with her Ice Spear crits? Because that's a lot of instantaneous damage that if you don't have a Heat Flask left, you need to survive. Or are we talking, titty bitches or all those mobs where it's just really fast hits?
It's Goom's creations, PT.
But then,
Am I not supposed to say that?
no, it's
No,
I just want to clarify something.
I freaking love how heated this debate is, though, because this is the community's having this debate. Like, every time someone brings up or posts a video with EB, Mind Over Matter, Zealot's Oath or something, all these same things come up. I think this whole argument really highlights, though, is that caster defenses are becoming very niched because there's so many prerequisites for a lot of these things to work. And I feel like the lack of variety in solid caster defenses might be the issue more than anything. More than these specific things being too niche, there's maybe needs to be more options.
And to clarify
Moving
for
out
the
of
record,
context,
hold up.
I had an interesting defense that's related to what ZiggyD's, but I first wanted to ask, because we moved direction. With what ZiggyD was doing without EB, did you use Warlord's Mark to get a mana regen for just natural EB?
I was using Warlord's Mark, yeah.
Okay, because it's one of the ones where an interesting thing they said was there probably is going to be nodes to apply Mana Leech in the near future. That was something that was posted a while ago. And if you can get Mana Leech rate and Warlord's Mark, that would make Mind Over Matter very interesting in the context you were doing it.
I would just like to clarify for the record, the best way for us to do that debate was Pox and I. We live with each other. We're used to doing this kind of thing.
Okay.
It makes good radio.
I
Come
haven't
on.
finished yet. I was cut off.
Okay.
We're changing the subject, okay? We're changing it.
Caster defense related, not
Yes,
your
this
guys'
is caster
argument.
defense.
More caster
This is
defense, for
strictly
sure.
caster
Oh,
defense.
great.
Okay.
More of this crap.
The fact that we can have okay, 10 seconds and I'm good. The fact that we're able to have this conversation actually means that there's viable sources of caster defenses.
True.
That is not just one thing. If you want to go, Dan's Game Resident Sleeper / PogChamp, you can do it. If you want to go Phase Acro, you can get it. If you want to go hybrid, you can do it. Like it's all fine. That's the good thing. This is a great thing.
So related to caster defense, I have a character and it is a low life Fire and Nova Mine. By being low life, I can't use EB. Right? That is strictly out of the question. I'm not using Mind Over Matter because my mana pool is terrible and I have to sustain entirely on Val Clarity. Like, I just clear maps on Val Clarity. That is it. The defenses I'm using for this build, and I'm running about 5k energy shield, and it has surprising survivability. Arctic Armor, Abyssal Cry, and Cast 1 Damage Temp Chains pretty much means if a mob hits me, it stuns me. The new energy shield recharge being 3 seconds rather than 6 seconds by slowing the interval of attacks by nearly 200% when mobs normally have a 1.5 to 2 second attack speed plus their terrible AI. I have no mana regen, no Zealot's Oath, no energy shield regen, and I'm only dying if I'm being particularly stupid. Like, it is actually sustaining me because when a mob hits me, I Abyssal Cry, they're temp chained, then they're chilled because they hit me based on Arctic Armor. They're basically stunned. Anything that touches me stuns themselves and everything around me. And it works really good.
Honestly, the best caster defense is temp chains with any chill. I mean, shit ain't hurting you. Let's be
Just
real.
remember Abyssal Cry too. Abyssal Cry stacks another slow onto that.
Yeah.
Just to be
People are really exploring like a heap of different options now like that. Like, we're seeing more people doing things like that and putting Arctic Breath with GMP chain on their custom damage taken.
Yep.
help with these things, and it's doubling as some extra offensive things too. Like, people like this. The changes on beta are forcing people to explore a whole bunch of different things, which is quite exciting.
While we're in the heated debate, let's talk about the biggest caster change of all time. Note the Easter egg. Arctic Armor. It's coming up soon on your guys' screen. Arctic Armor. It's now at Mana Reserve. It's no longer a Mana Degen, which means
another controversial change.
Oh god, this change gets me pissed off. And
makes
I know
me
you
so
love it,
happy.
Pox. Makes me so mad.
Makes me so happy.
Xeno just doesn't like good things. That's how this works.
All right. Here's why I cannot stand this change. One, it's nice to have it be on Mana Reserve now, but by putting on Mana Reserve, it makes Mana Regen pretty much useless. It almost feels like a fluff stat now, where before it was like, well, I want Mana Regen because I have Mind Over Matter. I want Mana Regen because I have EB. EB scales my Mana Regen. And I want Mana Regen because I have Arctic Armor. Now it's like, well, I want Mana Regen because I'm wearing a Pledge of Hands, and that's the only damned reason I want Mana Regen now. Honestly, by changing this to Mana Reserve, they really, really hurt the Mana Regen stat. And I don't know why I have to be stationary for me to get the less damage taken. And because it's less damage taken, if I have any armor or endurance charges, it's less effective. I get the best bang for my buck when I have 0 armor, 0 endurance charges, and I'm an evasion build. So, a bow character. Pox, let's hear your debate now.
Sure. Okay, so one, I would like to thank ZiggyD for enforcing us to face tank Flame Blast and not run away from them. So anyway, on a separate note, the way I like it, all right, is
stop moving.
Usually with caster defenses, you don't have like a 6,000 life pool, right? Usually don't have like a crazy high life pool, right? You have like a, you're doing something for defenses. If you're going Mind Over Matter separately, you're going hybrid. Usually, in some type of scenario, you're prone to getting stunned. Usually, I mean, some builds are different. Maybe it's just my builds. I don't really know. Anyway, in the scenario of, in the event of you dying, it's usually from a stun, unless you get bursted. And when you're stunned, you're not moving. If you're not moving, Arctic Armor activates. So it actually activates a lot more than people would actually think. Like, my builds with 5k HP get stunned by White Skeleton Archers in 78 maps. Again, maybe that's just me, and that you get stunned, you stop moving. When a Roa charges you, you get stunned. So, I don't know. I really don't mind the change. And I think that Mana Regen still has its own niche little category. It's for people who want to run. Like, I've seen people run mana builds. I've seen people in beta with 1.4k mana with like 100 plus regen just going through doing whatever they want.
1.4k mana?
Yep, I've seen 2 people.
Wow.
For now, that's really good. So.
The only... Like, Mana Regen's good for CI, and CI is in a pretty bad spot because Blood Rage LOL. Like, or Pledge of Hands builds. That's like the 2 main uses I would see it used for now. But with the Arctic Armor change, it's like, I already have enough things to worry about on Mana Reserve because Wrath is now good for lightning spells, and Anger now applies to spells. So I already want to try and squeeze those into my builds. There's nothing wrong with providing us choice, but when Arctic Armor becomes part of that choice, rather than I could kind of work this into my build if I have enough Mana Regen, that's where I see the problem. It's just another thing on Mana Reserve with the reduced mana changes. To me, it's infuriating. It's even more things I have to try and put on my mana.
Well, I do understand what you're saying in that you want both, but to me, it's the same thing of saying, hey, no, you're not allowed to have a 9 link. Of course, you want to put 3 more things on, but you have a limited resource and you have to plan how you use it. Now, if in a hardcore setting, this means a player chooses to forego Arctic Armor, take an offensive aura, and then he gets hit by a powerful crit physical attack and dies to it. He made a poor choice and was punished for it. That's healthy. Like, in all honesty, I don't think there's enough auras in the game. There should be so many that the choices are hard. It's very simple, I find, in builds. You have this hierarchy of priority auras. This is the highest, this is second, and it's just worked down till it's reasonable. So this Arctic Armor, I like that it's reserve. I don't understand why people are upset by how the damage was changed to less, and I know this is complete contrary to your opinion, Xeno. And here's the reason. People have always been arguing about the spike damage when a mob crits you. This change is more powerful against the spike damage than the previous. The previous was cute against like void bears and the tentacle miscreants because it would hilariously absorb all the damage. and it was fun. But realistically, you're not afraid of the fast hitting damage. You're afraid of the hard hitting damage, which this mitigates more. And as Pox, I agree with Pox's stun annotations, etc. Something that would have one-shot you doesn't even matter anymore, because you would have been one-shot. And
yeah, but
once
it's
again,
only
this is
all right.
less.
So it doesn't one-shot you now. Now you have 10% of your health left over, and
that's not
that
dead.
is assuming it would do your entire life pool. So if a mob is going to hit you for 5k, now it hits you for 4,500.
The difference between not dead and dead is a pretty big difference.
Which is pretty much comparable to what level 20 Arctic Armor gives. What does level 20 Arctic Armor give right now in betas? Is it 15%? 12%? It's
260.
12, I think.
The main point I'm trying to make is Arctic Armor was one of the few unique things this game had. It had flat mitigation, which very few things exist in the game. Maybe on Bramblejack, it's got like -4, whoop-de-doo. I mean, it had a flat way to handle it, and it made mana gen more useful. It had a very unique
I
style,
actually fully
and now the
agree with you
uniqueness
there.
is completely gone. It's just another standard reservation with a less physical modifier, which, believe it or not, less physical, usually multipliers are good, but in this case it's bad. The higher your reduced physical reduction is, or the higher your fire resist is, the less effective these are. So it's best used for evasion builds or casters without any form of armor.
One of the things you said earlier, I actually completely agree that Arctic Armor and Incinerate were the main builds for going mana regen. With the addition of Elyon rings, Manon hit jewels, changes of clarity, everything, mana regen seeming this stat that you can just kind of work around, and it's a waste of a suffix. And I actually do agree with that, because it seems very weird that our goal for our build is to avoid mana regen. However, I do understand that you were saying the movement component. The movement component is a clear downgrade than just not having it statically. However, I like the fact that it will punish a player that makes the incorrect decision. A proper player will assess the damage quickly and know if it's better to avoid the hit or risk moving. And any mechanic that punishes an incorrect play while rewarding a correct play is something I inherently enjoy. It would obviously be more powerful if it was just statically given, but as soon as it's applying player skill to the mechanic, I really, really enjoy that. I think that's
So the player
fantastic.
skill is you have to stand still.
Not necessarily. You need to know
you
when you should have stood still, in which the mitigation would have been more, or if that hit would have killed you regardless, and you needed to move because there's possibly, let's say, an incoming row that could land a stun.
I mean, in Pox's thing, he's like, well, now I don't die to one Flame Blast. Well, if you don't get hit by the Flame Blast, you take 0 damage, so you're going to stand still and take damage now with Arctic Armor.
That was a troll.
But that's the
Okay,
decision you have to make in
okay.
the moment.
Okay,
Like, that
prime
is the
example.
decision
Here
you
we go.
make.
Prime example. Most casters that aren't freeze builds, aka Prolif builds back in beta, do you guys like fighting porcupines, the ones that explode and hit you for a bazillion damage? Because you know what I do now? Because casters, I'm going to be honest, I have never played a caster that used armor. I don't know any caster that uses armor. I mean, I'm sure there's some Iron Will builds and stuff, but for the most part...
Armor.
Okay, there you go. See, someone here uses armor. Most people don't, though. So in my scenario, the Arctic Armor is great. When I see porcupines, I know to stand still. As Project said, you have the decision of standing still, especially now with Lockstep. It's totally on you. Do you make the quick thing to run away, or do you know you can just stand there since you do damage anyway and kill it instantly?
So
what is your choice?
So now you stand still to take 12% less damage or 15% less damage when old Arctic Armor would mitigate more while you can move.
I wouldn't use the old Arctic Armor. It wouldn't
You
wouldn't
never
work
used
in my
anything
build.
but Life Lasts back in the day anyways.
Yeah,
but
and
still.
it is a clear change. Obviously, the moving mitigation is less. There's no argument there. None.
Well, even if you stood still with old Arctic Armor, you still took less damage than new Arctic Armor from porcupine attacks because it would be like
Depends
minus
how
200.
high the hit is. It depends how high the hit is, because
I mean, unless it's an extra damage extra damage map, but usually those aren't.
But the
it's either
highest
lightning,
hitting
cold, or
ones are
fire.
the ones you're most afraid of, which
Correct.
means the ones that would be potentially killing you, this one's giving you more mitigation for.
And if you pop
The
up
other-
Granite, it makes Arctic Armor less effective.
It's still
Then we go
effective.
into fucking third-year university algebra, calculator resist, and be like, all right, guys, in this situation, it was the correct decision to move. But that's what I like about it.
Well,
You need to know the minion damage to know the better play.
The thing is here, really fast, is that Arctic Armor even though they're taking away in essence what mana regen does, they're opening up new things. You can run Arctic Armor now, like a high level Arctic Armor on a melee that uses blood magic or something. I'm just giving not like a blood magic support gem. Like you don't have to use it on a caster with 300 mana regen anymore. Such as in my builds, I can actually use. I would have never had the option of choosing Arctic Armor in my builds if it was not for this change. So even though again they took off the way clarity is now, like how it synergizes with everything, they're opening up new ways of using skills.
It just feels like an ore now. All right, whatever. Let's move on. Ziggy's just like listening.
I've been enjoying it.
Quick.
I'm very
quick
proud of
comment.
myself.
Lightning Warp is wonderful with that. Move on.
Yes,
I agree with that.
The thing about Arctic Armor is we can have these discussions out, and the same thing with the new EBZO mom change. It's not that it's dividing the community. It's actually giving us choice rather than, well, I'm going to go with B, well, I'm going to go Arctic Armor. Now you can actually say, well, I don't want to use Arctic Armor now because I don't like it, or I want to use Arctic Armor because I like it, or I like Zeo now. That's the beauty of the beta right now. It, in a sense, it does make people have more debates and whatnot, but I guess that's better for the game than just everyone being cookie cutter,
This
EB,
is better.
Cobra Defiance, Arctic Armor, yeah. So, in a sense, it might be a nerf, it might be a change. If you like it, use it. If not, find another way. Let's talk about the other changes to the tree going on. We have 3 new trees or skill wheels that got added into the game. One where the